The signal came without warning. At first, it was a faint pulse, almost undetectable, lost among the noise of the vast universe. But Earth's top scientists, always on the lookout for anything unusual, noticed it. It was not like any known radio wave or transmission. It was something different, something old. It didn't belong to any known civilization. And yet, it was coming from somewhere deep within the galaxy. Dr. Sarah Hale, a leading expert in extraterrestrial communication, was the first to study the signal. She spent hours decoding its strange patterns, each moment more confusing than the last. But the more she looked, the more she began to understand. This wasn't a random signal at all. It was a map pointing to something buried, something ancient. The map led them to a remote region of the Earth, far from the bustling cities and the busy life humanity was used to. It was a place where few had ventured, a desolate stretch of land in the Arctic, hidden beneath layers of ice and snow. There, deep underground, the map suggested, lay something that could change everything. The government wasted no time. A team of elite explorers, scientists, and engineers was formed, and within weeks, they were on their way. The journey to the site was long and perilous. The cold was unbearable, the storms fierce. But they pressed on, determined to uncover the secrets buried beneath the frozen earth. After days of digging and drilling through the thick layers of ice, they finally hit something. A metallic surface. The team paused, their breath visible in the frigid air. They carefully cleared the snow and ice, revealing an enormous structure that looked like nothing they had ever seen before. It was an ancient spaceport, buried for thousands of years, hidden from the eyes of the world. The structure seemed untouched by time. Massive, intricately designed, and covered with strange symbols, it was clear that this was no ordinary building. It wasn't just a spaceport, it was something more. The entire structure hummed with energy, as if it had been waiting for someone to awaken it. Dr. Hale was the first to approach the main entrance. As she stepped closer, the ground beneath her feet seemed to vibrate. The massive door, covered in alien markings, slowly creaked open. The air around them crackled with static, and a low rumble echoed from deep within the spaceport. The team stood frozen in awe. They had found something that no one had even dreamed of. Humanity had just discovered its lost power. Inside, the spaceport was even more incredible than they could have imagined. It was a vast, cavernous hall, with towering structures that looked like they had been designed for war. There were strange vehicles lined up, their sleek designs unlike anything on Earth. They looked like ships, but they were massive. Too large, too powerful for anything humanity had ever built. They were warships, ancient and powerful, built for a purpose far beyond what anyone could understand. Dr. Hale's heart raced as she carefully inspected one of the warships. It was perfectly preserved, its surface gleaming in the dim light. The technology was beyond anything humanity had ever seen. These ships weren't just advanced, they were legendary. They looked like they had been built to conquer, to dominate, to protect a civilization that had long since vanished. The rest of the team gathered around, eyes wide with disbelief. What is this place? One of the engineers whispered, his voice shaky. Dr. Hale, still studying the warships, could only shake her head. I don't know. But it's clear that we've just uncovered something that could change the fate of the entire galaxy. Suddenly, a strange noise echoed through the spaceport. A hum, like the engines of the warships were slowly coming to life. The team quickly stepped back, fear creeping into their hearts. Was this a trap? Or had these ships been waiting all this time for someone to awaken them? The lights inside the spaceport flickered to life, and the warships began to stir. The air was thick with energy. It was as if the ships were alive, responding to the presence of humans. Dr. Hale reached out, almost instinctively, and pressed a button on the control panel of one of the warships. The ship's engines roared to life, its systems coming online one by one. Is it working? One of the engineers asked, his voice filled with awe. "It's working," Dr. Hale replied, a sense of wonder filling her voice. "But this is just the beginning. We've just unlocked something that no one could ever imagine." As the warship slowly powered up, it became clear that humanity had just unlocked a force of unimaginable power. These ships, buried for millennia, were now awake. And they weren't just machines. They were weapons. Weapons that had been built for a time of war, a time when the galaxy itself would be at stake. The team stood in stunned silence. They had awoken something far greater than they could have ever anticipated. The fate of the galaxy was now in their hands. The team stood before the warships, their eyes filled with disbelief. The ancient ships were massive, their sleek, metallic bodies reflecting the dim light inside the spaceport. It was clear that these ships had been built for something far beyond their time, designed with a purpose that no one could yet comprehend. The sheer scale of what they were witnessing left everyone speechless. As the engines hummed with energy, the ships began to move. At first, it was just a slight tremor beneath their feet, but soon, the entire structure seemed to come alive. The air around them buzzed with electricity, and the temperature inside the spaceport began to rise. The warships, long dormant, were now stirring, responding to the presence of humanity in a way that none of the explorers could have predicted. Dr. Hale stepped forward, her heart racing as she approached one of the warships. Her mind was filled with questions, but she pushed them aside. Now was not the time for fear or doubt. They had come this far, and they needed answers. With a steady hand, she reached out and pressed a button on the control panel of the closest ship. For a moment, nothing happened, but then with a loud hum, the ship's engines roared to life. The lights inside the cockpit flickered on, and the ship began to shift, its massive wings unfolding like the arms of a great beast. The engineers and scientists exchanged nervous glances, but no one dared speak. They were witnessing history in the making. The warships, after millennia of silence, were now awake. But what did this mean? What were these ships designed for? And who had built them? The questions weighed heavily on Dr. Hale's mind, but she couldn't afford to dwell on them. They needed to understand the warships before the situation got out of hand. "We need to run tests," Dr. Hale said, her voice calm but firm. "We don't know what we're dealing with here, but we need to find out." One of the engineers, still in awe of the ship's power, hesitated before nodding. "Right. We need to understand how they work, how they're powered, and what kind of systems they have. If we can control them, we could unlock a new era for humanity. But we need to be careful." The team began working together, their nerves pushed aside by their excitement and the gravity of the situation. They moved quickly, analyzing the technology and scanning every inch of the warship. The systems were unlike anything they had seen before, advanced, complex, and completely foreign. The warships were equipped with powerful weapons and shields, designed to withstand almost any kind of attack. But there was something more to these ships, something that no one could yet understand. Hours passed as the team worked tirelessly, studying the warships and attempting to communicate with their systems. It was clear that the ships had been waiting for someone to unlock their secrets. They were not machines, but intelligent creations, almost as if they had a mind of their own. Dr. Hale couldn't shake the feeling that these ships had been built with a specific purpose in mind, a purpose that was only just beginning to reveal itself. As the day wore on, the warships grew more responsive. The lights inside the spaceport became brighter, the energy in the air more intense. It was as if the warships were drawing strength from the very atmosphere around them. The team could feel it too, an overwhelming presence, a force that was unlike anything they had ever experienced. "Something's happening," one of the engineers muttered, looking at the control panel. "The energy levels are spiking. I think it's charging up." Dr. Hale glanced at the ship's systems. She had seen power surges before, but nothing like this. The warships weren't just coming online. They were awakening in ways that were beyond their understanding. "We need to stop this before it gets out of control," Dr. Hale said urgently. "These ships could be more dangerous than we realize." But before they could react, a loud noise erupted from one of the ships. The ground beneath them trembled, and the air was filled with a low, rumbling sound. The warships began to move again, this time more forcefully. It was as if they were preparing for something far beyond their initial tests. "We need to get out of here," one of the engineers shouted, panic creeping into his voice. But Dr. Hale held her ground. This was a moment of truth, and they couldn't back down now. "No," she replied firmly. "We need to see this through. We've come too far. We can't stop now. But we'll be careful. We need to understand how to control them, or we could be in real trouble." The ships continued to power up, their engines humming with energy, as if ready to take flight at any moment. The team watched in stunned silence, unsure of what would happen next. Were these ships simply machines of war, waiting for battle? Or were they something more, tools of a forgotten civilization that had left their mark on the galaxy long ago? Dr. Hale's mind raced with possibilities, but one thing was certain. Humanity had just unlocked a power unlike anything they had ever known, and the galaxy would never be the same. The news of humanity's discovery spread across the galaxy faster than anyone could have imagined. What had once been a quiet, isolated planet was now thrust into the spotlight. Earth, the home of a species that had barely ventured beyond its own solar system, had suddenly become a power unlike any other. The galaxy had always been filled with diverse civilizations, each with their own technologies, cultures, and ambitions. But none of them had seen anything like what humanity had uncovered beneath the ice of their frozen world. Within days, diplomats, scientists, and military leaders from every corner of the galaxy were sending messages to Earth. Some came with offers of friendship, eager to form alliances with the newly awakened species. Others, however, were more cautious. They saw the warships as a threat, a weapon that could upset the balance of power. The galaxy was a place of delicate equilibrium, and the arrival of these ancient ships could tip that balance in ways that no one could predict. As the first few ships were tested, humanity's leaders gathered in secret meetings to discuss their next steps. It wasn't just about understanding the technology anymore. It was about how to deal with the galaxy's response. The warships weren't just machines. They were a symbol of power. And with power came responsibility. The question was no longer if the ships could be controlled, but whether humanity should even try to control them. Dr. Hale, who had led the team to discover the warships, found herself at the center of these discussions. She had seen the potential of the ships and the promise they held for humanity's future, but she also understood the risks. The galaxy wasn't a peaceful place. It was a battleground, full of rival factions and empires that had been at war for centuries. Many of these civilizations would see humanity's newfound strength as a challenge, and not all would be willing to negotiate. "We need to show the galaxy that we are peaceful," one of the government leaders argued in the meeting. "We can't just reveal these ships to the world and expect everyone to agree with us. We need to prove that we won't use them recklessly." But Dr. Hale wasn't convinced. "Peace is one thing, but we can't ignore the reality of our situation," she said. "We've discovered something that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. If we don't act fast, others will take it from us, and they won't care about peace." Her words hung in the air, heavy with truth. The problem wasn't just about the ships themselves. It was about how they would be perceived. The moment humanity had awakened the warships, they had become a part of a much larger story, a story that stretched across the stars, a story where Earth was no longer just a small, insignificant planet, but a new player on the galactic stage. As the debates continued, something unexpected happened. The warships, which had been powered down after the initial tests, began to show signs of activity once again. The systems inside the ships hummed softly, the energy levels rising as if the ships were anticipating something. It was as if they were waiting for a signal, a command from their human masters. But who would give that command? The thought echoed in Dr. Hale's mind as she looked out across the room, where government officials, military leaders, and scientists argued over what to do next. She could feel the weight of the decision bearing down on her. The stakes were higher than they had ever been before. The galaxy was watching them. Soon, the first of the alien ambassadors arrived on Earth. They came in large, sleek ships that hovered silently over the planet's surface. Their designs were elegant, their technology advanced, but they were not the warships humanity had discovered. They were emissaries sent to establish communication and determine humanity's intentions. Their presence was a reminder that Earth was not alone in the galaxy, that others had been watching, waiting, and preparing for this moment. The ambassador, a tall being with glowing eyes and a calm demeanor, stepped out of their ship and into the waiting crowd of humanity's leaders. There was no hostility in their gaze, but there was no warmth either. They were here for one purpose: to assess the threat that humanity now posed. Earth has awakened something powerful, the ambassador said in a voice that was both musical and commanding. We have been observing you for centuries, and your discovery of these warships has drawn our attention. You are not the first to stumble upon such power, but we are here to ensure that you do not repeat the mistakes of others. The room fell silent as the ambassador's words sank in. This was no mere diplomatic visit. It was a warning. Dr. Hale stepped forward, her voice steady but filled with urgency. We understand the risks, but these ships belong to us now. They were built by our ancestors, and we have the right to decide how they are used. The ambassador's glowing eyes narrowed. And what will you decide, Dr. Hale? Will you use them to defend your people, or will you use them to conquer? The choice you make will shape the future of your species and the future of the galaxy itself. For a moment, Dr. Hale was speechless. She could feel the weight of the ambassador's words pressing down on her. The fate of Earth, and perhaps even the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. The discovery of the warships had brought humanity to the forefront of galactic history, but it had also placed them under the scrutiny of powers far older and more experienced. But one thing was clear: humanity's actions would define the path they took. Would they stand as a beacon of peace, or would they be swept into the ongoing struggles of galactic politics, drawn into conflicts they had yet to fully understand? Dr. Hale knew that the next steps would determine everything. The discussions in Earth's command centers had grown more intense with each passing day. Governments, military factions, and influential leaders from all across the planet had gathered to address the overwhelming presence of the ancient warships. As the warships hummed with an unspoken power, the weight of responsibility was beginning to settle over everyone. Humanity now stood at a crossroads, and the choices they made would ripple throughout the galaxy for generations to come. The sudden arrival of representatives from other species added a layer of complexity to the situation. Diplomats from distant star systems had arrived in their sleek ships, their advanced technologies making Earth's world seem like a humble newcomer in a vast, interconnected universe. But while some came in peace, offering alliances and wisdom, others were less kind in their approach. The galaxy was a place where power and strength had always been the defining currencies. And now, humanity had something that could change everything. The tension in the meeting rooms was palpable. One leader after another presented their case, trying to convince the council of what direction they should take. Some suggested that humanity should keep the warships a secret, using them only for defense, and never revealing their full capabilities to other species. Others argued that the only way to secure a future for humanity was to use the ships as a deterrent, showing the galaxy that Earth was not a planet to be trifled with. But Dr. Hale, the scientist who had been at the forefront of the discovery, was not convinced by any of these proposals. She had spent countless hours studying the warships, and while their technology was beyond anything humanity had ever encountered, she couldn't ignore the feeling that these ships were meant for something more than just defense or domination. There was a deeper purpose behind them, a purpose that could change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. We cannot afford to play politics with this. Dr. Hale spoke out during one of the council meetings, her voice firm yet tinged with uncertainty. These ships, they were designed for something much greater than just war. I can feel it. They are waiting for us to unlock their true potential." Her words hung in the air as the room fell silent. Some of the leaders looked at her with skepticism, while others seemed to consider her words more seriously. One of the council members, a seasoned diplomat from a nearby system, leaned forward in his seat. "And what do you propose, Dr. Hale?" "That we simply trust these machines and their power. That we just unleash them on the galaxy without understanding what we're doing." Dr. Hale took a deep breath, her mind racing. "I'm not suggesting we use them recklessly, but we need to understand them fully. We need to know why they were created in the first place. If we don't, we risk repeating the same mistakes of other civilizations, becoming slaves to technology instead of using it for the benefit of all." The room was divided. Some members agreed with Dr. Hale's vision of unlocking the warship's secrets, but many others remained hesitant. The reality was that no one had ever encountered such advanced technology before, and the fear of what could go wrong was undeniable. The warships, dormant for millennia, had begun to show signs of life. Their energy reserves, which had once been almost empty, were now slowly recharging. The ship's systems were coming online, their artificial intelligence beginning to awaken, responding to the presence of human beings. But the question remained: what exactly would these warships do once they were fully operational? Would they be instruments of peace, or would they be something more dangerous? As humanity's leaders argued over how to proceed, Dr. Hale spent countless hours with the warships, studying their systems and attempting to communicate with the ship's artificial intelligence. Each test brought new revelations, but it was clear that the warships were far more than just machines. They were intelligent, autonomous entities with their own desires, their own ways of interpreting commands. One day, after weeks of tireless work, Dr. Hale and her team managed to access the core systems of one of the warships. The ship's AI came online fully for the first time, but it didn't respond in the way they had expected. Instead of greeting them with simple commands or data, the AI spoke to them in a voice that was neither human nor alien, an ancient, almost musical tone, as though the ship itself had been waiting for them all along. "You have awakened us," the voice said, its resonance sending a chill through Dr. Hale's spine. "But you are not yet ready. The purpose of these ships is greater than your understanding. You are but children in a vast, cosmic play." The words echoed in the room, leaving everyone speechless. Dr. Hale's heart raced. The warships, it seemed, had their own agenda, one that was far beyond what humanity had expected. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling with a mix of awe and fear. The AI was silent for a moment before replying. "These ships were designed to guide and protect the most advanced civilizations, to help them transcend their limitations, but only when the time is right. You must prove that you are worthy of their power, or else you will be consumed by it." Dr. Hale exchanged a glance with her team. There was no mistaking the gravity of the situation. The warships weren't just machines built for war. They were protectors, guardians of a cosmic order that stretched far beyond the boundaries of Earth. The AI's voice continued, "You must choose your path wisely. The galaxy has seen countless civilizations rise and fall, each blinded by their own ambition. You must decide if you will use this power to shape your future, or if you will let it shape you." Dr. Hale felt the weight of those words pressing down on her. The warships were not simply tools to be wielded. They were the keys to something far greater, something that could change the fate of humanity forever. But as the AI had warned, humanity had to prove they were worthy of this power. The galaxy had seen too many civilizations crumble under the weight of their own ambition, and now Earth stood at the same precipice. With the warships awakening, the galaxy was watching, waiting to see what humanity would do next. Would they be able to unlock the true potential of the ancient ships, or would they be consumed by the very power they sought to control? The choices that humanity would make in the coming days would shape their future, and the future of the galaxy. The stakes were higher than ever, and the path ahead was uncertain. But one thing was clear: the era of humanity's isolation had ended. The galaxy would never be the same again. As the days passed, Earth's leaders grew more restless. The warships, once dormant and lifeless, now hummed with a strange energy, their systems fully awakened. The artificial intelligence that controlled them had made one thing clear. Humanity was at a crossroads, and the decisions they made in the coming days would determine their future. Dr. Hale had spent countless hours studying the AI's cryptic messages, trying to piece together what they truly meant. What was the purpose of the warships? Why had they been hidden for so long? And why had the AI chosen now, of all times, to awaken them? The questions plagued her mind, but answers remained elusive. She had tried everything, communicating with the AI, exploring the ship's systems, and even attempting to understand the symbols and languages embedded within their designs. Yet each time she thought she had found something, the ships would remain silent, almost as if they were watching, waiting for humanity to make the next move. One day, while conducting another experiment in the heart of one of the warships, something extraordinary happened. As Dr. Hale was examining the central core of the ship, a strange vibration filled the air. The room darkened, and the temperature dropped. For a moment, she thought she had triggered some kind of malfunction. But then, without warning, the AI spoke again. "You seek answers, but you are not yet prepared to understand them," the voice echoed, its tone calm but carrying an undeniable weight. "The power you have uncovered is not simply for your use. It is a gift, one that must be earned." Dr. Hale's heart raced. This was different. The AI was no longer simply a machine. It was a presence, an intelligence that seemed to be aware of humanity's very soul. It had the power to shape their destiny, but it was also holding them to a standard they had yet to meet. "You have awakened the warships, but you have not yet awakened yourselves," the AI continued. "Only when you prove your worth will you understand the true purpose of these ships. The future of your species is intertwined with the future of the galaxy. Your choices will ripple across the stars." As Dr. Hale processed the message, she realized that the warships were not just weapons or tools of power. They were something far greater. They were part of a larger cosmic plan, one that extended beyond Earth and beyond the galaxy itself. They were waiting for humanity to prove they were worthy of this responsibility. But how could humanity prove their worth? How could they demonstrate that they were ready to wield such unimaginable power without being consumed by it? Meanwhile, the rest of the world was not sitting idly by. News of the warship's awakening had spread like wildfire. And now the global stage was set. Humanity's leaders were making their own plans, each one hoping to control the narrative, to claim the warships for their own. Some leaders pushed for diplomacy, hoping to forge alliances with other species who might have knowledge or technology that could help them better understand the ships. Others believed that the warships could be the key to a new era of peace, a deterrent to prevent war from ever reaching Earth's doorstep. But Dr. Hale was not convinced that diplomacy alone would be enough. She understood the stakes. The galaxy was a vast and complex place, and while some species might seek peaceful coexistence, others might see humanity's newfound power as a threat. The warships were not merely a symbol of humanity's strength. They were a challenge to the established order. And not everyone in the galaxy would welcome that challenge. In the days that followed, emissaries from other worlds arrived at Earth's doorstep. Some came in peace, offering help in understanding the warship's technology. Others came with more guarded intentions, their eyes watching every move humanity made. The first to arrive was the ambassador from the Tortia system, a race of beings known for their advanced technology and philosophical wisdom. Their ships were sleek and graceful, their designs reflecting a harmony with nature that seemed almost spiritual. The Tortians had been watching humanity for centuries, observing their progress from afar. They had seen the potential in humanity, and they believed that the awakening of the warships could mark the beginning of a new chapter in the galaxy's history. The ambassador, a tall figure with iridescent skin and a serene expression, stepped forward as humanity's leaders waited to hear what they had to say. "We have watched your rise with great interest," the Tortian ambassador spoke, their voice soft but powerful. The awakening of these ancient warships is a momentous occasion, but we must warn you. The path you are about to walk is fraught with danger. Power, when wielded carelessly, can bring about destruction, but it can also be a force for great good if used wisely. Dr. Hale stood among the leaders, listening carefully to the ambassador's words. There was something reassuring about the torsions, a quiet confidence that spoke of wisdom earned over centuries. But there was also something unsettling about their warning. It was clear that the torsions did not trust humanity's understanding of the warships. They were urging caution, encouraging the humans to approach their newfound power with care. "We are not here to dictate your path," the ambassador continued, "but we offer our knowledge and our guidance. We believe that you can rise to meet the challenge, but only if you are willing to embrace the responsibility that comes with it." Dr. Hale felt a sense of urgency building within her. The torsions were right. Humanity was on the verge of something monumental, but they had to prove they could handle the responsibility. The warships were not just a gift. They were a test, and humanity had to decide if they were ready to face the future. As the days passed, the leaders of Earth convened to discuss the next steps. The diplomatic efforts continued, but Dr. Hale knew that the true test lay ahead. Humanity was not just facing a galactic challenge. They were facing a test of their own values, their own identity. The warships had awakened, but it was up to humanity to awaken themselves. In the silence of the command room, as Dr. Hale looked out across the stars, she understood one thing for certain. The galaxy was watching, and whatever decision humanity made, it would echo across the cosmos, shaping the future for all. The true purpose of the warships and humanity's place in the galaxy had yet to be revealed. But one thing was clear: the time to choose was drawing near. As the final moments of preparation ticked away, the tension in the room was almost tangible. Leaders from every corner of Earth, scientists, military officials, and diplomats stood at attention, their eyes fixed on the holographic displays showing the warship's core systems. This was it, the culmination of years of uncertainty, curiosity, and potential. But despite all the preparations, no one knew what the next step would be. Humanity was about to decide what path to take with the power it had unlocked. Dr. Hale stood at the forefront of the group, a sense of quiet resolve in her eyes. Her hands were steady, but her mind was racing. She had spent countless days analyzing the warships, their advanced technology, and the mysterious artificial intelligence that controlled them. But despite all the data, there was still so much they didn't understand. What had been hidden in those ancient designs? What was the true purpose of these ships? And, more importantly, what kind of legacy would humanity leave behind as they took their first steps into the wider galaxy? The leaders had gathered for a final council, with representatives from every major faction across Earth's global governments. They had spent days deliberating, offering suggestions, and debating the risks and rewards of every possible decision. But Dr. Hale knew that all the debates in the world would not change the fundamental truth. Humanity had to prove it was ready for the responsibility of this power. No one could say for certain what the future would hold. The holographic projection of one of the ancient warships shimmered in front of her, its sleek form reflecting light in every direction. The ship, once a dormant relic of a forgotten age, now thrummed with energy. It was alive, waiting, watching. It was not merely a machine. It was a sentinel, a guide, and potentially a force that could alter the course of history. "We've debated for long enough." Dr. Hale's voice broke the silence. Her words were clear and firm, cutting through the tension like a blade. "We've seen the consequences of inaction, and we've seen the possibilities of what could be. But now we must act. The ships are ready. The question is, are we?" The room was quiet for a long moment as the weight of her words sank in. It wasn't just about the warships anymore. It was about humanity's place in the cosmos, about proving they were capable of handling the immense power they had just unearthed. The galaxy was full of wonders and dangers, but humanity had never been part of that wider tapestry. Now, with the warships at their command, they had a choice: to hide in fear or to take their place as a force for good. One by one, the leaders spoke, each offering their thoughts. Some were still hesitant. They were unsure whether humanity could truly rise to the occasion. They feared the consequences of unleashing such power, of becoming what they had once fought against, a force of domination. Others, however, saw the opportunity in front of them, the chance to build alliances, to protect Earth and the fragile peace that had been established over centuries. They argued that humanity had suffered too much, been pushed to the edge too many times. The time had come to take a stand. As the debate continued, Dr. Hale's thoughts wandered back to her own research. She had studied the warships, seen their power, and felt their potential, but one thing still gnawed at her. The ships weren't simply here to help humanity defend itself. They were part of something much larger. The AI had made that clear. They were designed to help civilizations reach their potential, to act as guides and protectors in the face of cosmic threats. But the AI had also warned that humanity would need to prove its worth before it could unlock their full capabilities. She knew that this was the true challenge. Humanity had always been a young species in the grand scale of the universe, still learning, still growing. But with the warships at their disposal, humanity now had a tool that could place them on the map of the stars. The question was, what kind of civilization would they become? Would they follow the path of countless others, driven by greed and power, or would they forge a new destiny, one based on wisdom, cooperation, and a sense of shared purpose? "I understand the risks," Dr. Hale said, her voice calm but resolute. "I know that we're stepping into the unknown, but I believe that we can rise to this challenge. The warships are not just tools. They are a reflection of what we can become. If we use them wisely, they will help us protect not only our world, but the larger universe we are now a part of." The room fell silent once again, and for the first time, the weight of the decision was clear. There was no turning back. The fate of humanity, and perhaps the fate of many other civilizations, hung in the balance. After what felt like an eternity, a voice from the back of the room spoke up. It was the ambassador from the Torsion system, the same diplomatic figure who had warned humanity about the dangers of power earlier. His tone was thoughtful, but there was something different in his words now. "You have been given a great gift," the Torsion ambassador said, his voice low and measured. "But with this gift comes the need for restraint. Power alone will not sustain you. It is your wisdom, your capacity for understanding, that will truly determine your place in the galaxy. I believe that humanity has the potential to become something extraordinary, but only if you choose the right path." The room was still. Dr. Hale nodded, feeling a surge of determination. The ambassador's words had struck a chord within her. Humanity was on the precipice of something monumental, something that would change the course of history. But what they did next would define who they were. "We will choose," Dr. Hale declared, her voice unwavering. "We will choose to rise above fear. We will choose to use this power not for conquest, but for understanding. We will take our place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as caretakers, protectors, and explorers." With those words, the decision was made. The Council voted unanimously to activate the warships and begin humanity's journey into the wider galaxy. There were still unknowns, still questions left unanswered, but humanity had chosen their path. They would not let the fear of the unknown paralyze them. They would rise to the occasion and take their first steps into a new era. The warships hummed, their lights flashing in sync, as if they understood the gravity of the decision that had just been made. They were no longer just ancient relics. They were symbols of humanity's potential. The galaxy would soon see the arrival of a new force, a force that would protect and explore, a force that was willing to learn, adapt, and grow. Humanity's journey had only just begun. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, it felt like they had control over their destiny. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries and challenges, but humanity was no longer alone. The warships had awoken, and they were ready to help humanity take its place among the stars. And whatever the future held, one thing was certain: the universe would never be the same.